Well, good morning. Welcome back. Today we're going to be working on replacing a raised bed, building a newer one. A good bit sturdier than what I've been using. The ones I'm using now were built with untreated lumber, and they rot very quickly in this climate. So I'm moving to some galvanized beds, which I'll show you in a minute. But first off, kind of show you what the dirt does to them here. So down here at the bottom, you can see where the wood is starting to termites and rot, everything else is getting in the sides there. That wood's only about 2 years old, maybe 2.5 years old. So these just are not going to hold up. I was hoping they would, but they're not. I had ones that were about a year older, and they were literally just falling apart. See over here, this one's bending really bad. So what I went with is a combination of different designs on the internet for some larger ones as well. We'll take a quick look at those, what I've got built so far. And that's these here. What they are is the outside is treated lumber, and the inside is the galvanized steel roofing panels. And I know there's probably dozens of videos on how to build those, so I'm going to include a little bit of information and a little bit of step-by-step of some of the things I do. One thing I'm trying to do with these is my irrigation system is I'm just running my drip irrigation. I'm running the tubes through the inside. It's going to come out the outside and then be buried along here and connect up with this line right here. There'll be a little box there enclosing the timers and all the valves. I eventually want to go with a more traditional irrigation setup. That's going to need to take a little while. And then right here we've got I've already started some garlic for next year, so we've got that. So right now I've got 3. I'm going to add a 4th here. The way I fill them is about the first half. I use various yard waste that I have. We had a lot of roots and bits and pieces of wood and stuff from when we cleared that, and a nice big pile of it, and I used a lot of that. Used a lot of the chicken litter that I've had. Did a big cleaning of our chicken coop not too long ago, about a month or so ago, and I filled that one up. I believe all that went in there. And so on this 4th one, I'll probably use a lot of the stuff you see along the ditch there as a base, about the first foot or so. And then I'll use the existing dirt from my existing raised beds. That is really, really good dirt. I trucked it in, mixed it with compost, about a 30-60 mix, and I amend it every year. So let's go ahead and get started. A couple of quick things on the wood. First off, you want to make sure you get ground contact. Some of the stores around here, they sell treated wood, but it's not ground contact. I found some at Home Depot for the exact same price as everybody else that was ground contact. If you don't get ground contact and you have a humid environment or a lot of water, I mean, your raised beds are going to have a lot of water in them, then the wood will rot, especially on where your cuts. So the way you can tell that is just find the tag on the end, and it'll say ground contact. This one right here has it right across the top, ground contact. Usually it'll say not for ground contact or something like that. If it doesn't say for ground contact, regardless of what the associate or the employee says, I wouldn't recommend getting it. Just go with ground contact. Now for this raised bed, what you're going to need is you're going to need 10 19-inch pieces. These are the uprights. Then you're going to need 4 pieces of a 2x8 cut in half, and I'll explain that in a minute. And then you'll need 4 2x8s. The thing with treated lumber is it's not like traditional untreated lumber. Your sizes will vary. Just in this batch I had one that was 97 inches. I had a couple that were 98 and 3/16. I think I had one that was 98.5. To reduce the amount of cutting you have to do, it's easiest for your long 8-foot pieces, just find 4 that match. They may be, 96 and 3/16, 98, 96 and a half, whatever. Just find 4 that match. For your short ends, and this will be a 4x8 bed, find 2 2x8s that match the same length, and then just cut them dead center half. And you don't. For the supports, the way I'm going to put those together is with something called a pocket screw. And Craig makes these nice little jigs. They clamp on the end, and then you just drill with a provided drill bit in, and they give you 2 nice little screws you can attach either way. Now, the screws themselves are fairly expensive. You don't need to get those. Just run and see what you can find. Just a standard 3-inch deck screw with the way we're building. Sometimes you might want to use a 2.5-inch deck screw. But the way these are built, I'm using 3s. You just don't drive them in too hard, and they work perfectly okay. And sometimes you can find these deck screws on sale at your local hardware store for next to nothing. I think I picked up this 10-pound box was $10. It was in an off color. I guess they weren't selling any, it was on sale. I think it was like half off. So just kind of keep your eyes open for that. So now we're gonna go ahead and drill these 10 pieces. Just have to drill 2 holes in each side. When you're drilling, just kind of get it doesn't have to be perfect centered, just somewhat in the center. So we're gonna go ahead and knock that out. I also use these wood screws with the little rubber washers. You don't have to use these, but they're nice. They're pre-made. They're kind of designed for the panels into wood. Mostly use them on roofs, but I get a box of 50, and that is actually exactly how many you'll need. So these are 1/4-inch heads. So I'm gonna go get a 1/4-inch bit. Be right back. Now it's time for the sides, the short sides that is. All right, that's all there is to it. So we'll do another one. We'll get it out. Now we do not want to put the steel on this one because we're going to attach these as the ends to the raised bed, and once we do that, the steel will actually be a little shorter, so it'll kind of come in here, so we'll have to do a couple of cuts on it. Show you that. So we got the ends on. Now the short end is screwed to the long end, which is 3 of this 3-inch deck screws we were using. And you just do all 4 sides. Then you need to square it up. So you need to measure a diagonal from one end to the other, and then do the other side and compare the numbers. And then once you get that squared away, you can jiggle it around and get it right. Once you have it squared, have your measurements set up, then you need to check it for level. Get your little level and throw it up on your sides. Now the wood may be a little off, so you don't have to be perfect, because remember it is treated wood. What you can do is you get the level, and then you figure out how much you have to dig. If you look down here, I had to dig a pretty good bit on this top end and almost none on the bottom end. And then as you're digging, just go ahead and throw the dirt inside to start with your fill. So once you get all that done, you get it all leveled up and square and everything, then what you need to do is measure these ends. So, and I talked about making sure that the sides were right. So what you're going to do is you're going to take it from one of these bumps and measure it over to the exact same bump on the other side. That way your end will fit in, your galvanized steel end. So we'll go inside, measure those up. Mine just happened to be 44 inches. Yours should be pretty close if you're following the plans. We'll go measure them up and get them cut, and we'll get them put back in. You added the ends, stainless steel ends on both sides, as we cut them, measured them. Now, the reason why I was talking about that box of 50 screws working just perfectly, or being just enough, on each of the long ends we have a total of 17 screws. So 2 times 17 is 34, and then on each of the short ends we have 8 each. 34 plus 16 is 50. So no waste there. When we come down here in the middle, we have that metal strap. I've just got one screw on each side. You can pretty much take any screws. I don't know that I'd use the decking screws. You might have to put 2 of those in there if you can. Those would probably hold it. I'm using some old Simpson screws I had left over for their what do you call them? Joist hangers, but anything will probably work. So there you go. So now it is time to fill her up. And seeing how we have a rainstorm on the way, I'll be doing that tomorrow, and we'll come back then. One thing I almost forgot to mention was the wood is almost entirely covered up by the galvanized steel, and that is nice if the pressure treated wood bothers you, or having pressure treated wood exposed to soil bothers you. However, if you'll notice in the corners, there's a very little bit of wood that's exposed. Now, of course, the ring we'll put across the top, the frame, there'll be a little wood there that the rain will go on and seep into the ground. But if you prefer, you can take and run some duct tape or something else on that seam and cover up that gap, so you'll have almost no pressure treated wood exposed to the soil. And now would be the time to do it, because the next step would be filling the raised bed. there's your raised bed. So now what I'll do a little bit later, so go ahead and put a piece of landscape fabric over it, keep the weeds from growing up. And then when it gets a little bit closer, I'll put a layer of compost on here to amend it, and then I'll be ready to start growing a little while after that. One other tip, always make sure you use the same tape measure when you're measuring this stuff, because even of the same brand, I've had them be off slightly. So just always make sure you use your same tape measure. Well, thank you very much. If you like what you see, give me a like, and please subscribe. Have a great day.